Hello, my name is NBrandART and I've been painting for a few years now and thought I'd launch a YouTube channel which I'm calling Ready to Paint. And over the months I'll put up videos which will show some of the things that I've learned, and I hope perhaps we can learn together. And as I do some paintings, sort of one each time, maybe you'll be inspired to have a go yourselves and learn with me as we go. We'll be using oil paints for all of these, and one of the things I love about oil paints is their ability to represent water, both the reflections that go into the water and the ripples that lie across the water. And for today's painting, we're going to paint a beautiful beach scene. It's got some dark clouds in, and these dark clouds reflect beautifully in the wet sand. The first thing I'm going to do though is to put out the paints on the palette, and then we'll be ready to paint. So let's go. So here are the colours we're going to be using. I squeezed out some titanium white, quite a bit of that. Some sort of Naples yellow is a colour I've mixed up. Then some alizarin crimson, some viridian, some ultramarine blue, a little bit of cobalt blue, and then some sort of black, what's called a chromatic black, which I've mixed by using ultramarine blue and some burnt umber, sort of about 60-40 ultramarine to burnt umber, and it makes this nice black colour, which is lovely for making gentle greys. Okay, so we're going to start mixing these and beginning to paint. So the first thing I'm going to do is to make a horizon line just using masking tape, and put it roughly, well, exactly where the horizon is. I want the horizon, which I think is going to be there. And it's really important it's horizontal, because if the horizon is off, it really shows in the finished painting. So I'm just putting some masking tape on like that, and then we're going to paint the sky first, and then I'll remove the masking tape, and you'll see you get a nice crisp horizon line like that. Okay, so now we're ready to start doing the painting, and what I'm going to do is I've mixed up this sort of grey colour really made from titanium white, alizarin crimson, ultramarine, and a little bit of the black that I mentioned, the chromatic black, and I'm going to just paint on over the easel here. It's just a little bit dark. I'm going to add a bit more white to it. There we are, that's good. We'll put that on the board. And as I said, this is just MDF, 3mm MDF, which you can buy from your local hardware store. And they actually cut it to size, which is nice. Just going to paint up there. And the nice thing, usually if I were painting this, I would have, I primed this. This white colour is like a primer you can get for MDF. It's called Thixotropic Alkyd Primer, and it just seals the MDF, so the oil paint sits nicely on it. And what I usually do if I were painting, particularly if I paint outside on plein air, I would get like a slightly pale biscuity brown colour, and I would very diluted, and I with oils, and I would paint that over the board and then let that dry, and that sort of stains it. And it means that, particularly if you're painting outside, if you miss a bit, you don't get a glaring white of this primer showing through. So it's just quite nice to do it in a way that it means you can leave bits. Sometimes it's nice showing little bit of the board, but you don't want a glaring white part of the board. You want a slightly toned down version. So I'm just putting a general coating of this pale grey, it's kind of mauvey grey, over the surface, over the entire surface, and then we'll get it looking a little bit darker. But because we've got the white showing through, because we've got the white of the background, the primed board, what I will be able to do is to use a rag, and I'll be able to wipe away some of the surface oil paint. I'll show the white through it, and I can use that to represent sort of clouds and things like that. It's quite a nice technique, and it means you're almost doing the reverse of painting. You're removing the painting, removing the oil paint rather, to represent the clouds, and that's quite a nice way of doing it. Now, because I've got this masking tape here, I'm in no danger of spoiling the horizon line, because I'll take that masking tape off in a moment. Not yet, I've got a bit more to do, and then you'll see just the effect that you get. It's really quite startling. You suddenly see this lovely clean horizon line appearing. Anyway, there we are. We've done more or less. I think we've got the whole sort of part of the board that we want covered there. And that's a lovely kind of maroon colour. Not maroon, what am I talking about? Sorry, lilac. It's a grey lilac colour. What we're going to do now is to put on some darker cloud areas, so I'm just going to mix up a little bit of the colour for that by adding a bit more of the black, so we get a slightly sort of darker, more foreboding look. And I'll add also a bit more ultramarine blue. And do you remember I mentioned at the start we were going to have the clouds reflecting the wet sand? Well, that is what I'll be able to do with these really nicely, and having the dark clouds allows them to be reflected in. So it's still wet, and what I'm going to do is to put in just here some darker. You need to keep reloading the brush, because obviously the pale paint that we put on initially will smear that. But you can see I reload the brush. Reload. Don't worry if it's not perfect at this stage, because we'll be blending it in with another brush, a sort of a round, soft brush. So this is where the thicker cloud, the darker cloud is going to be, and like that. Don't mix it in with the colour that's there. Just put it on top. That's what we want to do. Just put it on top, and there'll be, I think, another one just here. So reload the brush. Reload like that. You've got this masking tape here, so I don't need to be careful on the horizon. Don't go below it, obviously, yet. But now, roughly like that. Okay, so that just sets the scene. And what I'm going to do now is to get this brush, which is just a sort of soft, a round brush, and it's nice for blending, and you can sort of just pat it on, particularly just around the interface between these, and it gives a nice sort of soft, you see it softening all of those colours, all the interface between the dark and the, like that. I'll darken this. Just fade it out like that. Okay, and then I think I might darken this a bit further. At the bottom, like that. Well, not too much, but just to give some kind of depth to the cloud, I suppose. Gently soften these a little bit, only a bit. It's starting to look a little bit like clouds. Don't worry at this stage; it'll change quite a lot. But we're just creating that sort of foreboding look. All right, let's pause there. But I'm just going to mix up some more paint, some more colours, and then I'll get the rag and we'll start wiping away parts of these to make the cloud, the sort of whiter cloud. That shows behind that, and that's that kind of negative painting where you're removing the oil paint and showing the board at the back. And then the dramatic bit, we'll take away the masking tape and we'll then start work doing this lower section, which will be the little bit of a wave, bit of sea, and then the sand, and will reflect the clouds into the sand. It's a nice painting when it's finished. I hope it will look something that inspires you as well. Alright, so what we're going to do now is to make some of the white clouds by removing some of the oil paint that we put on previously. And this is just some, like the blue sort of tissue paper you can get on these big rolls. And I'm going to move some of this paint away. And hopefully you will see the kind of look we want to get. And just get a new fresh bit once you've wiped away some of the paint. Maybe down here. And you can see these clouds that start to form. Probably to turn off the camera and then do a little bit more, because it's probably a bit boring just watch me do this, but then I'll show you in a second what I've done. So here we are, and I've just done some sort of basic clouds by rubbing away and blending a little bit more, but you can see the overall effect. I'm now going to make a little bit darker parts of the cloud because I wasn't quite happy with how dark these bits were, so I've mixed up some slightly darker grey. I'm going to put it onto here. That should just blend in with that. But you can see just making it a little bit darker, a bit more dramatic down at the bottom, down at the base of the cloud. Don't want to overdo it, but I do want it to look darker in a couple of places, because that will reflect really nicely in the wet sand. And that's part of what I want to demonstrate, and what you might want to try as well when you've finished watching this. So I've got this brush that I've been using for blending. I'm just going to do the same again, just sort of tapping it, and it just mixes it in just very, very gently, but it keeps it looking, I hope, like a sort of cloud. Just a little bit darker, and then I hope that gives it a bit more form, a bit more shape. Clouds are quite hard to paint, actually. You find if you look at them, I mean really look at them, they're incredible things, and capturing that sort of almost the grandeur, the loftiness of the cloud is very, well, it's a good challenge, really good challenge. There we are, so they're just a bit darker now. I think that's alright. The next thing to do, I think, is going to be, so let's do the big reveal. Let's take off this thing, because we've done the kind of the base of the clouds that we want. So I'm just going to reach around the back, peel off this bit, and when I pull this away, you get a really crisp, nice crisp horizon line. And suddenly you've got like the sea and the clouds that sort of sit, well, I think they just sit in place really nicely then. And it starts looking a bit more like a scene that we want to paint. So the next thing is going to be to paint carefully the sea, gradually getting larger, slightly wider to the left-hand side, and then we'll do the wet sand. And particularly if you look at this area here, it's quite dark, so we'll do a nice reflection, and also here it's quite dark, and we'll do a nice dark reflection there. Okay, let's go mix up some more paint now. And what I'm now going to do, I've mixed up a colour for the horizon, and I'm now carefully going to paint the horizon line. And this bit of wood is quite useful for that, because I can rest my hand on it. Anyway, I'll finish doing that, and then we can look when that's finished. I thought I'd show you the palette so far, so you can see kind of the colours and the mixes, and then we'll just do a little bit of detail on the painting so far. So you can see the clouds, and you can see the sand, the sea that I've done with a bit of perspective in, which I think is more interesting than just a horizontal seashore line. And then we're going to do the dark. The sand and the dark clouds reflected in that. So let's carry on. Alright, so I've mixed up a colour. It's a little bit darker than the sea itself, but this will be this sort of seashore colour. And well, as I said, we'll have some darker bits, and then I'll talk through in a bit more detail about how we do the reflections. Because reflections are interesting on the sand, because they have the reflections obviously go down, so you do them vertically, but then they also, you sort of soften them and the light effect on them by brushing across horizontally, and having those horizontal and the vertical is what helps give that sense of depth and also surface to the reflection, which is on the sand. So I'm just doing the sand here. This might be a little bit dark for all of it, but down where it reflects on the clouds is probably about right. So just on this bit here, I'm following roughly the sea line, the seashore line that I've painted. Like that. And the medium that I use, which is the stuff for mixing with the oil paint to make it runnier and to apply, is linseed oil and terps, and what's called a cicative, which is something that just speeds the drying time a little bit. Otherwise, oils can take weeks to dry. This speeds it up so that it's dry within maybe a day or two. Not fully dry, but touch dry within a day or two, which just helps for things like storage. So there we are. There's the seashore line, and I'm now going to lighten up the colour by putting in a bit more titanium white. And I may put a tiny bit of this. I've called it Naples yellow, but it's really one I mixed using titanium white, some of this yellow, which I think is bismuth yellow, very powerful yellow, and a little bit of cad, this colour here, this one, which is cad yellow deep. It's really like a very kind of like a orangey brown, very warm colour, and that will just help to warm up the sand colour a little bit and bring it to the foreground a bit more. Colours tend to get cooler as they move into the distance, and warmer as they come forward. So to help create that sense of depth in a painting, you can paint warmer colours in the foreground and cooler colours in the background, and that will help to create that sense on that kind of illusion of depth in your painting. Clever, he said. Well, I think it will. That's the plan. And try it. Try for yourself if you do this to get some warmer colours at the foreground, and you'll see how it kind of pulls it in. It's only slight, but it's a tip that was given to me as I'm passing on. Now, a top tip: if you get to your repainting and things start to go wrong, do not worry. Most paintings, that every painting that I have done, has gone through a phase of me thinking, this is terrible, what am I doing? I can't paint. But now I've done, I suppose, enough paintings to know that I will get through that, and it will be all right. It will be right just to keep painting. The nice thing with oils, of course, is that you have time to do that painting, that adjustment rather. A little bit there. There we go. Like that, you can adjust it. Okay, so there's the sort of sand colour. And what we're now going to do is do the much darker bits here for the clouds, but I've got to mix up a bit more paint. Right, well, I've mixed up this slightly darker colour, and I think the bits you can see are around here and around here that I want to make quite a bit darker. So I'm going to pull this down. So remember we spoke about the sort of going vertically with the cloud colour, with the reflection rather. And also along here. You'll find it suddenly kind of pops and you think, oh yeah, clouds, reflections. He says, hoping. Particularly this lovely sort of vertical, going down, isn't it, vertical pattern. I'm going to extend it along a bit because that cloud is quite dark along this point as well. And what we'll do now is just to do them horizontally as well. Working. Still got to do the C. Don't worry about that. You can come back to bits and pieces if it's not quite right. But that gives you a little bit of the effect of the clouds kind of reflecting. I'll do a little bit more on that, but you get the idea, doing the vertical, which is the kind of actual reflection into the sand, if you like, of the cloud, and then the horizontal, which gives the surface texture. And I like, if you look at this bit here, the way the paint is sort of dragged across, and you get that, it's not blending, but you get a kind of bits of it move into the other. And it's that contrast that gives the surface of the reflection on the sand. So I've got a bit of this colour. I'm just making this C section here. I actually quite like that white bit there. It's kind of like a nice bit on the horizon. Sense of hope. Nice. But this bit here is going to be very dark. I'm mixing a little bit of Viridian. There's a lovely colour in here. It's a nice colour for the sea. And we're going to put some kind of crests of waves on here. And this bit here as well is quite dark. Put that roughly along there. Keep adding paint to your brush because course you'll be picking up the colour that you put down earlier, which was a lighter grey, and we want it to stay dark for this section. Got to be careful on the horizon so I don't spoil that, because I want that to be kept quite crisp. Okay, let's pause there. I'm going to start, I think, I'll make that a little bit darker, and then I'm going to put on little crests of waves, and that'll make the sea look like the sea. Alright, so we've now got a bit more of the waves and the sea and the clouds reflected. I'm going to put now a sort of kind of waves onto the sea, and it's just going to be very kind of thin, and keep loading your brush here. See, when you're using, it's not pure white, I've added some of the grey from the sky into it a little bit. I want it to be kept white, but I might add some sort of titanium white just for the highlight, but for this I'm just suggesting the waves on the seashore. That sort of thing. A little bit along here too. A bit more. Really want to have the sound of the waves, you sort of crashing in your ears as you paint this. And then some out at sea as well a bit. Anyway, I'll do a few more of these and then we can come back to it. Now, to give these waves that I put on a little bit more sort of substance, I am just putting in some darker shadows underneath them. Just where they're kind of be moving over. Pull this down again a bit, make it slightly darker. If you start panicking a bit at this stage, don't worry, because you can always just add a bit more later on. And so when you pull down first of all, get the reflection into the sand, and then you pull across using that sort of using this brush. I need to clean it a little bit, but that will just help to give us the sand feel. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is to make some kind of, where you get this old waves that are on the sand. I'm going to try and do that by pulling it across. I may need to adjust that. I think I will. But you pull the sand, those waves sort of coming out, and then they help show the sand again. So I'll work on a bit of those, and then we'll come back. So now let's try doing some little rocks in the foreground. Just those little ones. And these, as I said, give a little bit more, there's a little focal points to look at. And what we'll do reflections of these rocks, again in the sand, and that helps to make the sand look more believable. It's very small. Not too many of them. Okay, and now I'm going to add on just a little paler side with the sunlight reflecting onto it. A slightly lighter rock side on this side, because the sun, if you look at all the clouds here, the cloud is being lit by the sun this way, so all of the sort of highlights are like this, and therefore the rocks would have the sunlight coming from here, and it would be on this side, on the right hand side. They have a little slightly lighter bit. Just kind of suggesting it really, and then what we're going to do next is to pull those rocks down a bit to give them the reflection that we want. I think I'll probably have to paint. I'm going to paint some of that black with that little brush there. That's my kind of the thinnest brush. So that'll give me the most control at this stage. So I think just going to pull those down like that, just a little bit. It'll just suggest the reflection. No, it's a bit too boring. There's the detail bit. It does bring a painting alive. Surprising the difference between like a boring painting and a kind of one that is really quite alive. Can just be a few little details. So it's worth taking your time on the details. The next bit I'll do is to do. I'm going to do, I think, some seagulls or something. Maybe 2 or 3 here. Maybe a couple here, and then a little one here, which again will show the depth into the painting. And then I'm going to do a couple of little sailing boats or something here. So let's try. I'm going to mix up some colour for the seagulls. All right, what I'm going to do is to scratch through. I sort of sharpened these. This is the end of the paintbrush. I just sharpen them in a pencil sharpener, and it means you can then scratch through the layers of oil paint you put on back to the white board. Alright, so I'm now going to scratch in some seagulls. I'm going to do one like that, one like that, and then I'm going to do a little one here. Quite nice when they're against the darker clouds, because they highlight, you get this nice contrast. So if you do a smaller one here and a larger two here, it gives a nice sort of look as if you're looking into the distance. So like a kind of illusion that you get. So yeah, you see that in a few paintings actually. If you have a look, they use that effect, that illusion of having larger birds or larger things in the foreground, and then smaller of the same animal or thing in the background. And it gives that depth that we need. So this is the painting on the seagulls. Just like that. If you're not happy with them, you can always rub them out. There we go. No one will ever know, except for you and me. I'll just put in that extra wing up a bit like that. There we are. And it gives a bit of movement. Okay, so I've mixed up this sort of red colour. I'm going to have the spokes coming towards us here. So I'm going to have it's on the horizon, or rather so they extend beyond the horizon, so it kind of adds interest. Just like that, just like that. And then I'm going to do another one, which I'm going to make slightly darker colour. And they're basically racing. They're racing across these stormy. Well, I think the storm has just passed actually. So I think they're probably just enjoying the movement in the boat. If you like sailing, you'll know what I mean. And what I'm going to do now is just to look at a bit more at the cloud and maybe put a little bit of highlight on the cloud. I don't know if you can hear those seagulls in the background, but they add to the atmosphere of this painting maybe. So just up here, a little bit of highlight. Just a tiny bit, tiny bit. Don't overdo this. Otherwise you'll spoil it. I will spoil it. I'm sure you'll do a good job when you come to do this. This just shows the kind of the sunny bits on the tips of the clouds. So yeah, be really careful with these highlights, because it is easy to go overboard with them, and the painting then looks just, well, it will spoil. It's nearly finished. Nearly finished. I'm just going to put some sort of, you know, those wet sort of channels you get as the water runs down to the sea. I'm going to try putting in some of those. Just to add some sort of foreground interest. Something like that. I think it's finished for now. I'll see how that goes. So I'll just sign it, and quite nice when you do it like this in one session, a la prima, as they say. The oil is still wet, of course, so you can sign, and as you sign with a sort of scribe, this sharp point, it will reveal the white. Do you remember at the very beginning we had this white MDF that had been primed, So when I sign, you'll see the white reappearing. I'm going to sign it just here. And then put the year. 2020. So there we are. These boats are rushing along and racing one another. And then here's the palette. here's how we did it. These are all the colours that we used and the result of the mixing. Well, there, I think we finished that painting. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And this will be the first, as I said, in a series called Ready to Paint. Let me know how you get on when you try to do this at home. It'd be lovely to hear from you. Otherwise, I will see you next time. And I've really enjoyed doing this. It's the first video, so I will be doing more. And please stay tuned to this channel and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.